let's find out who we've got around the table. What's your name?
Amelia.
And?
Alexandra.
Ed.
Ed, welcome.
Chris.
And?
Kieran.
And?
Graham.
Right, okay.
Mike's a bit low.
Which mic?
Well, I can't hear them.
Okay, well look, we'll go and say it.
Kieran. Oh, that's too loud.
What's your name?
Alexandra.
And let's try that again.
Ed.
And?
Chris.
Whoa, we've got full sound there. Full sound there. And come and have a seat. What's your name?
Rob.
Rob. Okay, so has anyone got anything they want to kick off with? Any thoughts, comments, observations, suggestions? Apart from...
Turn the violin down.
Do we live in a world of too much violins?
More violin.
More violins?
More always.
Yeah, okay. What is like peak string? What is too much string instrument interference? Is it this or is it more? Could you come and get involved with this? Yes, you come and have a seat. We've got Tom, we've got Amelia, we've got Alexandra, we've got Ed, we've got Chris, we've got Kieran. Graham's got. You don't. We've not even started yet. Okay, but we don't have a subject. We've got a new face over here. What's your name?
Hello, Marley.
It's what?
Marley, my name's
Marley. Okay. So has anyone got subjects apart from the violins to kick us off with? Any thoughts, comments? Anyone? Rob, you look like you've got half an idea. What is it?
No, my idea is that I'm half asleep.
Okay.
So it's not really an idea.
It could be, do we get enough sleep?
No.
Do we get?
Well, I didn't.
What's a good amount of sleep for you?
Like 2-3 days.
2-3 days.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Maybe we can go around the table. What's a good amount of sleep for you?
Yeah, quite a while. Probably a good 8 hours at least.
8 hours, yeah.
Definitely the same, but it's also going to bed before midnight because
Really?
8 hours when I go to bed at 5 a.m. It's not the same hours.
Why?
When I go because I'm exhausted.
Okay, so it's got to be what? It's got to be before midnight. How many hours?
Like just a perfect half-hour nap.
Half an hour is a good amount for you.
One in the morning,
Wow.
one in the afternoon, yeah.
Do other people get jealous of you that you don't need?
I don't know, I'm asleep too.
4.5 is good.
4.5,
6 is great.
really? Wow. Okay.
Ah, but is it? I question that. Although you don't look tired.
I feel tired.
Ah, see, that doesn't sound good. Anyway,
What? Yeah.
yeah, but that's youth. 8 hours.
8 hours is a good amount for you. Okay. Are we getting enough sleep? What about person having makeup? Do you get enough sleep?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
What's
insistent on it, so...
You insist on it?
Yeah.
To who?
You can't function if you don't sleep. It's a
Right.
bit of a false economy to like not get any sleep and then
Right.
like be sleep deprived and try and do complex tasks.
Right. Okay.
So just say no. Turn off the phone.
Yeah.
Get a fluffy pillow. Fuck you.
Okay. Just got to say, fuck you. I'll sleep when I want to. Fuck you. Okay. So that's the attitude. Fuck you. I'll sleep when I want to. Marley, how many hours?
Depends from the party or depends from the day.
Are you like Alexandra that it's got to be a before midnight sleep? Do you get enough sleep, sir? You do?
I think 6 or 7.
6, yeah. Yeah, okay. So where are we going to go with this? I mean, if we were to go to Mars, would sleep be an issue or would it be really the only thing to do?
Mars. How long is a day on Mars?
Okay, so we've got some facts coming into this conversation now. Does anybody know?
Would it be weird?
Longer, right? Because it's further out, so it's going to be
Yeah.
longer.
That's how long the year is, I think.
It's a long year, right?
Yeah.
But is it a
Okay,
short
can
day?
someone look it up on Wikipedia, please? Okay, there we go.
My phone's dead, yeah.
Okay, so how long? I mean, is it going to be an issue that we'll end up sleeping less because?
But we'll probably sleep more because we're so bored.
Yeah, it'll be bored. The only
I mean, what are we going to do? Go to McDonald's? It depends what they build, but it's probably going to be a shopping mall, a bit like Westfield.
Yeah.
So that's it.
So we will get more sleep on Mars because there's nothing else to do.
Nothing except the same old shit.
Yeah. Apart from growing potatoes. So sleep's not going to be an issue on Mars. Is that? Do people? Yeah.
We don't know what cool new Martian drugs they're going to have, though, do we?
Right. Okay. So you might be kept awake. Yeah, I'm turning that down. Don't worry, I'm on the levels. See, my idea of like sound levels is adjust it as you go along. What's the point of like setting it all up beforehand when you?
Yeah, but you've got a massive table with built-in amplifiers,
Yeah, true.
it makes it easier.
True. Okay, so where are we going to go with this? I feel like this sleep conversation is like a bit kind of like. Well, yesterday we were talking about the Borgasm. Are we having a Borgasm or a snorgasm right now? That was a conversation where, like, would technology allow us to extend our orgasm to the point where we just got bored of orgasm, and therefore you'd get the borgasm? Yeah.
Well, I never heard of borgasm, so that's
Yeah.
very intriguing to me.
You heard it here
But
first.
it doesn't sound like something I would like to experience, to get bored of orgasms.
Yeah.
Sounds boring itself.
Okay, I mean, if you're tired of orgasms, are you tired of life? I mean, what do you think about the borgasm? Have you ever experienced a borgasm on this side?
I've never experienced a orgasm. I don't know. I mean, orgasm is just a state of mind. It can be anything, right? So it's a state of energy.
So in a way, when you get bored of it, you just stop orgasming. If you've got that sort of that control, that mental control.
I guess you would, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
What if you're stuck in it? What if you're stuck in orgasm?
Yeah.
You've heard of people who have an orgasm for no reason, right? I have a friend. Every time she hears her name, she comes.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right.
Somebody says her name, she just comes straight away.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you introduce me to this person? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I read about this woman that when she drives or does anything, she just has orgasms all the time.
Right.
And it's actually a condition.
Yeah.
And it drives her mad.
Right.
And she has to be really, really careful to not be stimulated because her whole body is kind of just hyped up for it.
Yeah.
So she didn't like it.
Okay, so there is actually somebody already that's got to this orgasm level. I mean, is that in a way, if technology allows us to do anything, would orgasm be the way we want to go? Would it be sleeping? In fact, somebody else yesterday, it might have even been you, Rob, said, if I could have any sort of like physical augmentation, I would have a sleep button that I'd just press the back of my head and go to sleep. That wasn't you. You like the idea?
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Come and have a seat on the table of chat. We're talking about, I mean, what state, if we could control our mental state, what state would we be in? Would it be a state of sleep, a state of simulation, this orgasm? I mean, if you could control it more, where would we be with it?
Isn't that like the state that kind of monks and stuff go, not obviously orgasms, but like monks go to for meditation and things like that? They just need to be able to control, they want to be able to control when they can sleep and when they can be at peace kind of thing.
Okay, so monks are doing that already.
Yeah, maybe we need to learn from monks.
Any particular type of monks?
I actually don't know anything about this in detail, so.
Anyone got some more information on the monks that can control their state of mind? You've not said much. Is it because you've only had half an hour's sleep?
I'm just listening.
Okay, just listening. Do you know anything about the monks that control their state of mind? Would you like to be a monk?
I read about the Indian, what is he? Anyway, whatever. Let's call him a holy man for the sake of this, who didn't drink water and he didn't seem to sweat, and he just sat there. And then they took him to a laboratory and they filmed him, and they saw his bladder fill up and then it emptied again within him without whatever. And it's all very well, right? So he's learned to meditate and he's done that. But then you just think, but why?
Yeah.
Just drink some water and get on with your life. I mean, what's the fucking point?
Okay, so why be a monk? Why actually? Have you ever thought maybe I'll be a monk, Marley? Have you ever thought?
Sorry, my brain is just...
I know it's these people playing music. What the fuck? Playing music. What the fuck? But is that because you don't have the mental focus? Is that because you don't have the mental focus of a monk? If you did, then you'd be able to shut out the music. Like me, I can just shut out the music. What about this? Anything about mental focus?
I'm lacking it today. I totally lost the thread of this conversation right now.
I can't, to be honest, I couldn't hear what did he say?
Can't hear anyone.
We can't hear what you're saying. Shut up! Turn it down a little bit. We can't hear ourselves. They've just gone up. All right, well, this is going to cut. What's that?
They'll be done soon. They're just sound checking.
Just having a little sound check. So what we're going to do now for the next 5 minutes is just pretend we're having a conversation. And then, like, after 5 minutes, when it's over. Okay, give us a final thought before you go to get wine.
About monks or wine?
Anything.
Monks and wine?
Yeah, I mean...
Sounds like a good combination.
What?
Buckfast is wine made by monks that Scottish people love.
Okay.
There we go. Rob saved the day.
Yeah. So we'll have a few glasses of Buckfast, please. I guess we just have to wait a second for this sound check. This is a sound check. Which, yeah, I think should have happened a bit earlier in the day. We'll just wait for the sound check to finish. There we go. Okay, we're back again. So we're, oh, maybe not. So we're talking about somehow we've got onto Buckfast Abbey and the combination of meditation and fermentation, which happens with these Devonshire monks. Do you know about Buckfast Abbey?
Not really.
No, maybe Rob, you could explain a bit more.
Well, I don't really know what they do there, except for they make Buckfast. Although apparently it's just really cheap wine with like caffeine added,
right?
And some herbs.
Okay. Yeah.
It's linked to 90% of all violence within Scotland. They've always been drinking that first. I tried it once, and it gives you the nastiest fucking hangover ever.
Okay. I mean,
but I didn't hit anyone though, so that's a good sign.
Sound check. Is it okay? Can you?
Yeah, we can only just about hear us.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you know how long? Yeah. You can't. Anyway, tell them to shut the fuck up. Anyway.
It says, no, it's not fucking okay.
Yeah. Anyway, that was just a quiet moment. I sort of feel like we need to maybe wait a few minutes for this to be over. But mate, I don't know. You've tried, but I've never actually tried it. I used to work in a wine shop.
No wine shop would sell Buckfast, I don't think.
Yeah.
Maybe
Scottish people used to come in asking for it.
Oh, I see. Yeah. It's more like an off-license thing.
I didn't know it had caffeine in it though. Okay, Ed, final thought before you go. Give us a final thought.
Well, I'm going to go and look at some more of the show because I haven't seen it all yet. So I was wondering, what do you think of the show? What's your favourite piece?
You know what? I really have to say, I'm not just being like sucking up to the guy that organised it, but I love Oscar's cityscapes made from recycled stuff, and it's very fantastical. I really like it, and I think they're improving all the time because I've been following Oscar for a long time. So I have to say that really. That's my favourite so far. I haven't seen the whole thing. Okay, where are we going to go? We've got some new faces. What's your name?
Jamie.
What's it?
Jamie. Jamie.
Jamie and
Robin.
Robin. Okay. And this is Kieran. What's his name again? Greg.
6 hours sleep.
Yeah. This is Amelia. This is Rob. I'm Mikey. At the moment, there's a few subjects on the table. There's something about going to Mars. There's something about this exhibition. There's Buckfast Abbey fortified wine, which is a combination of meditation and fermentation. I don't know how these things link together. It's something to do with like technologies to improve our state of mind.
I think we're sort of on a thread of like, do we want to take drugs to change our minds, or are we going to be meditative and take control of ourselves and sleep properly and all that shit, isn't it? So it's drugs versus whatever, mind control.
Mental control, yeah.
Mental control.
What is obviously mental control is better, but our drugs are kind of handy shortcut to that, I suppose. You say yes?
Yeah, totally. But that's how, people like Ramdas, who was Richard Alpert, mate of Timothy Leary's, he was a complete acid head, but then kind of went to India to investigate more and learn about meditation, and then came back and kind of spread the word to all the hippies, and I mean, drugs are alright for a little while, but they stop working after all.
Okay, so really the answer is you start taking drugs and then you sort of meditate.
Yeah, always start with drugs.
Start with drugs.
That's the answer.
Start with drugs and then try and get to that space without having to take drugs.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a Kickstarter.
Yeah, I was saying it's Kickstarter. It shows you a route and a frame of mind, and then you have to learn how to achieve that outside of using a substance.
Okay. Have you ever managed to do that?
No.
No? Have you at least got to the first level of getting fucked up on drugs?
Well, yeah.
Okay, so you're halfway there to a certain extent.
That's how you got to think about it.
Okay, Jamie.
I think they're linked because you look at meditation and like the tradition of meditation, and in those countries, they've been doing drugs for years. They just don't think about drugs the way we think about drugs in a Western world, they're picking up mushrooms and they're like eating weird plants and they're having a trip and they're like expanding their minds and then they're using that in their meditation. We just don't pick drugs, we buy drugs in a bag and it's all very weird.
A negative attitude to drugs then?
Why do you? That's your problem.
I'm neutral on this.
I don't know.
I'm neutral. I'm totally neutral, although government advice is don't take drugs, kids. But I'm totally neutral. Yeah.
Because they are quite toxic a lot of the time, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the drugs we take anyway. I mean, I say we, I mean the British population. There we go. We're not. It's not like we've got access to lovely fields growing psilocybin or something.
Yeah.
And then a lot of them are hard on your liver.
Right. Okay. So they're kind of
alcohol
toxic.
being in question.
Okay. All right. So at the moment we're kind of talking about drugs being a kind of pathway to a more expanded state of mind, and why are we so negative about it, Amelia?
I think like there's drugs are more than what people think drugs are, because there's like obviously everything that we use pretty much is a drug. So people are saying things like, you know, they're probably judging somebody for a drug which is illegal maybe, and like completely addicted to like caffeine or sugar or something. And I'm not saying that things are always on the same level. Obviously there's drugs which are worse, but I just think that most of the time, in moderation, people know what is and isn't good for them, and the people who aren't are generally self-sabotaging.
Okay.
Over time, it could be that changes, like our opinions on different drugs will change too, because if you look in Victorian times, they thought that smoking was really good for you, and that it exercised your lungs and worked out the muscles and things, and now we know that smoking is fucking terrible for you.
Yeah.
So, and there are other drugs like cannabis and stuff that actually, there are some bad things, but also there are some good things we didn't know about. So.
Okay, so it's always a little bit of a mixture of like good and bad.
Yeah.
But I mean, what about this thing about the sort of expanded consciousness? I mean, does cigarettes do that as a drug? They expand your consciousness?
You could say they do though.
Yeah.
Because some people use cigarettes to calm down, some people like the need for cigarettes and the way people kind of, and like some people use cigarettes
so it's about
like
being,
socially as well. Some people are social smokers, and you could say they're expanding their mind when they're going out and they're doing this thing which is bad for them, but they're meeting all these new people and they're like opening up their mind to speaking to new people, and it's creating other things for them.
So it's kind of like a sort of collective, we're all damaging ourselves together, so we're all kind of we're all in this together, you know, I'll see you down the hospital kind of thing.
Yeah, and just bridging an earlier subject, if I wake up in the middle of the night and I can't get back to sleep, then I just go and have a cigarette and then I go straight back to sleep.
Right, okay.
So I use it to keep myself healthy.
Right. So in a way, it's like all drugs have got this, we're talking about drugs, come and have a seat, not that I'm not saying anything, no implications. So they've got this kind of double side. There's the dark side, and there's also the healthy side, or the mind expanding side. Anything on this side? What do you think?
I mean, healthy side, mind expanding side. I mean, I think it all depends on how you do them, right?
Yeah.
Like you can take any drug and you can put it in a specific context, and it can be harmful and abused, right?
Yeah.
But then. My friend Max, he's never taken cocaine much, but he just decided he wanted to get a group of friends together and have cocaine around a dinner table and chat, and that sounds really lovely.
So it's like a cocaine dinner party.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you know, that's something that you usually associate with addiction, but actually there it is. It's a nice thing.
You need to introduce me to. There's the orgasm woman and the cocaine dinner party people. He's a good person to know. Yeah.
Have you ever been to a cocaine dinner party?
No, I haven't actually.
No one listens to each other. Just everyone talks, basically. Right. But it seems like oh, it's amazing, it's brilliant, but you know, no one's listening to you.
Right. So. Okay. So there's a bit. Is there a drug you can take that makes you better at listening? No, I think that's a no.
I don't know, it does help. Yeah, weed.
Weed, you may be a little bit more receptive on weed.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you know.
I mean, I think that depends on the person. When I'm on weed, my mind my inner monologue goes on tangents. And
so you're sort of separated off from the other conversations.
Exactly. I find it very reclusive. I can't focus. I can't listen. I can't really express myself. Some people seem to be able to. That's an interesting one.
I mean, could you invent a drug that makes you more receptive, better at listening to people?
MDMA.
MDMA, you think?
That's like ADHD medication. That's all that is. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Adderall, yeah. That was the only word I had. Adderall.
Adderall. Yes. I'll get some. Yeah.
It helps you focus.
Right,
It's like, and it just like narrows your mind a bit.
Is that like Ritalin or something?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the drugs do exist, but are they necessarily good? The looks on people's faces was not very approving of this.
Isn't it just low-level speed, Adderall? Yeah.
It's super addictive. People have like really bad problems with it because they use it loads to focus, and it's like prescribed to kids with ADHD to help them with their exams and shit, especially in America. And then they're on it for life, and it like gives you loads of like heart problems and liver problems and stuff like that.
Legitimised microdosing. That's all it is.
Right. Okay.
Some of it legal and some of it not. It's all just like pharma, isn't it? At the end of the day, they can't make money off of like marijuana and well, magic mushrooms can be maybe dangerous, but
is there a reason why some drugs are legal and some are not? Like all the interesting ones seem to be.
It's always money, I swear.
Yeah.
Acid was used as to treat PTSD patients after the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
But then after loads of people decided actually we're having a great time on acid, we don't want to fight in a war anymore, and people were using it recreationally, and that kind of boom of like the 60s and everyone tripping, they then made LSD illegal because people were actually having fun and didn't want to fight because they were taking LSD.
Okay.
So they stopped being able to like use it to make soldiers and to profitize, and actually then people went, no, we don't want to do any of that shit, we just want to be like that all the time. And so
peace.
Equally, I heard that in this country, when they tried it out in that period, they thought, oh right, apparently you give these people acid when they've got psychosis and it makes them better. So they chained them to the bed, gave them acid. There was no therapists around, and then they watched them 24 hours and they said, no, it's made them worse.
Right. Okay. So, yeah. Okay. So all these kind of experiments. I mean, should we be revisiting some of these experiments maybe without the chains? We are.
It is being done. They've done experiments where, like, they've found with psilocybin, they reckon that they've, given people like divine experiences kind of in the laboratory. They're a bit cagey about what that actually means, but they're giving it to people who are like cancer suffering. I mean, they're not going to say, oh, this is what God is. That's what I mean. But they're saying that people have experiences that they describe as divine.
Okay, what's this something? Sorry, I forgot. What's your name again?
Chris. So, I mean, are you talking about Johns Hopkins? So the experiments that people have done, they do things like they give them a dose of psilocybin, and then they ask them to talk about that experience afterwards, and they do like clinical, sometimes with clinical treatment, sometimes just as an experience and a follow-up. And what's interesting is the lasting impact of these experiences, because people over time, our perception of an immediate experience is different from our perception of an experience many years, months after. And with psychedelics, what they found was that these high-dose psychedelic experiences were as profound as things like the birth of their first child.
Right.
And this is where we start getting at like this kind of divine experience where it is somewhat a part of our, I guess, birthright, I believe, to be able to have these experiences and access this part of our minds.
Right, okay, so it activates a part of our minds that isn't necessarily being activated in our world.
They've also in this country started using ketamine to treat depression, and it's been used as like a last resort because they haven't done enough kind of trials on it, but they've started using it for people who they've tried everything and nothing has worked, and they do kind of low dose, like you would sit and like take medication or go on dialysis. You sit and they give you ketamine and you sit there and you kind of just are on ketamine for a bit, and it's actually been proven to help with like long-term depression.
Like hard to shift depression?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a friend who she had really, really severe anxiety. She couldn't leave the house, couldn't do anything, and she decided to take ayahuasca to fix it. So she went and did this big ayahuasca trip, and she said that what it came down to was that because taking the drug felt so awful, she was convinced that she was going to die. It was the most horrific experience of her life.
Right.
But she was then like, actually, after I realised that, I didn't care about anything. I wasn't worried about anything else because I'd already accepted that I was going to die, and it was fine.
Right.
So maybe it's not necessarily the drug itself.
Okay,
It's just
so
the tool to get to that thing.
That's not quite how it goes in the sort of, you know, in the blurb, you know, take you to the darkest place you've ever been, and therefore everything else seems better.
When it comes to like marijuana, they've literally pretty much on the way now to getting it legalized anyway. Like there was a lady here last night. I don't know if she's coming again tonight or not, but she's working with an organisation who actually last year legalized cannabis for certain medical conditions.
Yeah.
So that's like one step.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I mean,
yeah, it's happening.
I mean, are we sort of coming around to this sort of new? Come and have a seat. Are you a drug taker? Has it changed your perception of the world? We've got Amelia, we've got Rob, we've got Jamie, we've got Robin, we've got Kieran, we've got Graham, and we've got Chris. What's your name?
Silka.
What is it?
Silka.
Silka.
Yeah.
So at the moment we're sort of talking about drugs really. And like all the helpful things they can do, like take you to the darkest place ever, and then you're not scared of anything anymore, and you lose your anxiety. Or
microdosing is good.
What's that?
Microdosing.
Yeah. Are you a microdoser?
Yes.
What does it do? How does it help?
I don't know. I just started today.
Oh really? So tell us a little bit about what are you hoping it's going to do?
Well, I'm hoping it's gonna basically like just help me to get grounded.
Yeah, grounded.
Yes, grounded. So I don't like identify with my emotions and with my thoughts.
Okay, so you're sort of more in touch.
Yes.
With the microdosing. And what does it involve? Tell us how do you actually microdose?
Well, it depends what you microdose.
Yeah. What's your experience?
Well, there was LSD with microdosing, but
a tiny touch of LSD.
There's a tiny touch. Yeah, fine. I'm feeling good. Yeah.
Anyone else tried a bit of microdosing?
Yeah, but what are you microdosing?
LSD.
Oh, LSD, not psilocybin.
I literally just tried it from my friend today, so I haven't decided on the medium yet, but I would go for psilocybin more because that's where I'm from as well, that's where it grows as well, so I'm kind of more connected and it's more natural, more organic.
Okay, so you'd rather go for a mushroom type microdose?
I haven't microdosed myself, but I do have a couple of friends who in college, whenever it came to exam season, they would microdose acid over the whole exam period, and they said that like every single time it helped them concentrate, it helped them like retain more information when they were doing stuff, it helped them focus during their exams. They were like religious, they did it with LSD,
right?
And they like swore by it, they did it every single time.
I guess that if you're doing that, you're just less anxious and worried in general, so you're just able to perform the functions you're trying to do anyway better because there isn't something in the way.
We'll have to watch this space come back on the final day of Mars and Beyond and tell us if it's worked.
I work here as well, so I'm here every day, so yeah, that's gonna be interesting.
So, okay, well maybe you need it to deal with the people coming in.
Thank you.
Is that your final thought? Give us a final thought. Oh, maybe we've got Alexandra now that we're talking about microdosing. Have you ever done microdosing?
I do it on a regular basis.
Really?
Yeah.
And how does it help you? Hang on. Sorry, Alexandra. Let me get a final thought from Robin and Jamie before you go. I need some sense of closure before you go.
I'm not planning on starting microdosing, but I'm not saying no right now.
Yeah, it could be a good idea for people, maybe not for you, but yeah, okay. Jamie?
You know, everything in moderation, I think, can work.
Okay, everything in moderation kind of works.
I just add to that, I've done the opposite of microdosing, and I think I agree with that.
Maxi-dosing. Okay. Yeah, how does maxi-dosing work?
Oh, you can't concentrate, I can tell you that much.
Yeah, okay, so over here we've got the maxi-doser and the microdoser. So you've been doing microdosing for a while. What are the benefits of it?
Well, I mean, Well, it just keeps me away from my own anxiety and depression.
Yeah. Right. How? Is it about grounding, as Sylvia said?
Yeah, it's about getting being very relaxed, getting the state of mind that you can really connect to yourself, and then you don't allow like some external bullshit or your own thoughts to ruin your day or life.
Okay, okay, interesting. I mean, you kind of these people are selling it to me, I have to say.
So my experience of microdosing was different. I did microdosed acid for 6 months, and that was every 4 days for 6 months, and I found it it just enhanced my mental clarity all the time. It was like 6 months where I was, I think, just quicker than I usually am.
And but practically, how does it work? What, do you just take a little drop of acid in your
so
coffee?
I titrated it down. I got a bottle of 100 drops of 100 mic and titrated that down to 12 mic and took one of those every 4 days.
Right. Every 4 days?
Yep.
So you only take it once every 4 days?
Yes.
Okay.
So
I didn't quite hear that. What percentage of a normal acid trip did you end up taking as a microdose?
If you consider a normal acid trip 100 mic, which is
100 what? Mil?
Micrograms.
Micrograms.
Which is typical. 12.
Okay, so it's like 1/8 then, roughly.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Quite high. That's surprisingly high. I thought it'd be lower than that somehow.
Yeah.
I could imagine tripping out on that, but you know, 'cause sometimes these things just work differently, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, are you doing like that, similar sort of amounts, or?
I do microdosing on mushrooms.
Yeah.
Not acid.
And what kind of levels are we talking about?
Yeah, well, so this is very unprofessional setup I'm doing. I'm just looking at the size, and I'm kind of thinking, well, that feels like a right size to me, so I don't scale it, which I probably
so it's
should.
just like a pinch, basically, we're talking about.
I usually know what state I get after which amount, so I'm trying to measure it accordingly.
Okay. Sounds like a good idea, though.
I think a dose of mushrooms is about 15 of magic mushrooms, so probably a microdose would be 1, wouldn't it, roughly?
1 mushroom, yeah.
It really, really depends on mushrooms, because like some mushrooms you can have like 1 mushroom and it's going to really...
It's a bit like chilies.
Hit you, yeah. So it really depends on the kind.
What's that?
One's enough for me.
One's enough, yeah. So it might be like a tiny slice of a mushroom in your case. Okay. Rob, have you ever considered microdosing?
No, I've never done anything illegal.
Okay. If it was legal, would you do it? Would you try it?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just want to know that the People Speak LLP do not condone any illegal activities. This is a conversation. Everyone's views are their own. Anyway, so where are we going to go with this conversation? Do we want to talk about the technology?
Comment on that actually, about what is legal and what is not, which is a little bit about the morality we spoke yesterday. Because to me, this is absolutely outrageous that either like the mushrooms are not legal. It's a plant. It's a natural plant. It's a plant that is helping people. They're doing research now that proves that the I forgot the ingredient in the mushroom that is basically, that is antidepressant. So obviously it's going to be legal at some point. But the fact that this is illegal and alcohol is legal, it's outrageous. It's so retarded, it's so stupid, and it's so backwards that I can't even take it seriously.
Okay, so I mean, you would have it the other way around. Would you make alcohol illegal?
No, I don't think that thing. This is the problem I have with the morality, in the sense it's like, I know what is good for me and what is bad for me, so I don't need somebody else to tell me that. And I do believe everybody should have the freedom to choose and take responsibility for their life and their actions without being told, like a stupid person, that, oh, you cannot take mushroom because...
So there's a kind of fundamental thing, it's like you decide what is good for you.
I do believe in the personal freedom, and those laws, they don't give us a freedom, they are enslaving us, because, again, why somebody... like, by having... I don't have problem with alcohol. I like alcohol, and of course I don't want this to be illegal. But of course, alcohol has much worse effect on our body and our brain cells than acid, for example, or mushrooms. Obviously, everything has to be taken in like right numbers or whatever doses. So if the authorities is telling me, oh, you can have alcohol and that's better for you than having mushroom or having weed, I disagree with it.
I mean, is it something to do, because earlier on when we had Jamie and Rob in there, they were saying it's about soldiers fighting, that when they take acid they don't want to fight, but maybe...
Because they are becoming conscious and they realize that the fight they're having has no purpose. So they are wasting their life fighting for something they realize they don't believe itself.
Yeah.
You know, when you go on the war, what you're fighting for, really.
Come and have a seat on the table of chat. At the moment we're talking about, should drugs be legalised? Is it really up to the government to decide?
One more thing, the fact that mushrooms are in the same drug class as heroin, it's like it's a class drug. It's like it's crazy.
Okay, so you seem to be a bit angry about this. We've got a new face at the table. What's your name?
Hortense.
Hortense.
Yeah.
So we've got Kieran, we have got Graham, we've got Chris, we've got Alexandra, Amelia, Rob, and I'm Mikey, and maybe these people are going to come and join us. Have a seat on the table of chat. We're having an intense conversation about drugs. And is it really up to the government to decide what we can and can't put into our bodies? And is there come and have a seat, sit down. Can we have some of our chairs back, please? Make up, yeah. Okay, have a seat, come and join in on this one. We've got a spare chair over here as well. What's your name?
Tarek.
What's it?
Tarek.
Tarek. Okay, so we've got Rob, we've got Alexandra, we've got Amelia, we've got Rob, we've got Hortense, and we have got Kieran. I know you, and maybe Graham's going to come and sit down again. But yeah, where do we want to go with this conversation? Any views? Oh, you've just arrived, so maybe you want to pick up the pieces of the conversation.
I don't even know where it started.
Well, me neither. But it's something to do with drugs, and who's got the right to say what we can and can't put into our bodies? Why are drugs like psilocybin and LSD illegal, but alcohol is legal? Is it a hidden agenda to get us to be more into fighting, as other people suggested earlier on? These are some of the subjects that...
Well, there's the interesting thing around like making it legal and trust, right? So there's the right to choose what we put into our body, and there's also the right to know what we're doing. And by making it illegal, you're actually making it harder for people to have that safety.
Okay, so you lose the knowledge because everything's underground.
Exactly. And this whole thing, if we start to legalize and sell it through like safe channels, we'd probably fix a lot of drug problem.
Yeah.
It's not even just the freedom aspect, which is obviously outrageous, but it's actually making the problem worse.
There's a safety issue as well, to a certain extent.
That's maybe Rob, do you want to say something?
I was just going to say it's about control as well. Like, there was a thing a few years back when I think it was Nixon's second in command basically came out and said that. He was like, the war on drugs, we used heroin to control black people, and we used weed to control the hippies. That's what it was for.
Right.
And the whole money laundering thing, like, there's a massive economy that's like just secret and off the books because drugs are illegal.
Right.
And that has its uses.
Are they controlling us with drugs? Is there a hidden agenda?
There's got to be a reason why America's nearly or virtually legalised cannabis. It must be because the government no longer sees it as a threat. And I think, we can talk about marijuana being a fantastic thing, but on the whole, it's a pacifier. Yeah. And I think it is a way of controlling the population. They're quite happy for them to be sitting at home stoned. Yeah. So now it's allowed. That's all. We don't need them to work in factories anymore, so just keep them kind of like a bit out of it.
Okay, so you kind of subscribe to this control element. Tarek, have you got a view on this? Do you feel that the government want to kind of control us by deciding which drugs are legal or illegal?
I think the government does look to control people, but I'm not sure it's just about drugs.
Yeah.
I think it was bad research and probably misperceptions about what the impact of those drugs would be on society. I don't I think today, if you look at California or even some of the states like New York, they realize marijuana is not something that's actually going to have a negative impact on society.
Yeah.
Right. So they're legalizing it, and they get tax revenue, which is really why they're legalizing it, because it's another source of revenue for them, which they realize isn't going to damage the population in the way they used to be worried about it. And I think that's part of the reason they're doing so much research now on LSD and psilocybin. It's because they realize that there are beneficial aspects to it. I think there were misperceptions in the 60s about what the impact could be.
So you think in the end probably psilocybin will also be legal?
I know in at least one city or state in America, it's not illegal anymore. So it hasn't been legalized, but it's no longer
so it's halfway
illegal.
there. Yeah. Okay, well, so we've got a new face at the table. What's your name?
My name is Voron. Voron. It's in your language it would be raven.
Raven. Okay. Yeah.
Raven,
okay.
Yeah, I've come quite a few millennia away from here, just watching the progress. Really fascinating. What are you talking about right now?
At the moment, well, I mean, it'd be interesting to get a sort of view from the future, because right now, certain substances that people ingest in order to change their consciousness are actually illegal. So LSD. Psilocybin, which comes from mushrooms, marijuana in certain cases, and so the discussion we're having now is like, is this our government trying to control us, or is it just a lack of understanding? What's going on here? That's really where we are right now.
I can tell you a small fragment. There is, I don't know if you know, there were a couple of gentlemen on what's that thing called, TED Talks, that went into the Amazon and they tried out various ayahuasca and DMTs, and what they had to do is they when they came back, they noticed that they were able to recount the experience and experience the DMT trip again and again, so they didn't have to continuously take the substance itself.
Right.
Now, in looking at something like this, you could seem, or you can feel like it just opens up a door to like almost the dimension within your mind, so you can start perceiving things differently.
Okay, so there's a door that you open up, and once you've opened up the door remains open.
It's, I think it was Terence McKenna said, when God picks up the phone, stop calling. And he was referring to this thing where you're seeking these enlightening experiences, and when you find it, listen to the answer and don't keep chasing it. And a lot of people will do that. They will like seek these experiences again and again because they value the experience itself and not the message they're taking from it.
Right. So in the end, it's not about the conditions that create the experience, but almost the narrative of that experience.
And I think that brings us back to doing the other thing, the meditation thing. If you ever go on like a 3-day retreat where you're not allowed to talk and practically sleep or whatever, and at the end of it, you don't really know what you come away with, but you've come away with something, and it's lasting. It doesn't mean you have to go on one of those things every week.
Right.
So maybe that's where we've got drugs a little bit mixed up.
But I mean, does that mean the business case as well for drugs is not that great? Because if you're only taking the drug once, and that's enough, how are you going to make money from that? I mean, imagine if that was like that with Talkaoke. You only need to do it once, and that was it. Then I would be out of a job, basically. Yeah.
I also wonder whether, is that just being judgmental of people who enjoy an experience? And what is to say that what we take from it is something else from what they take from it? And choosing that experience as their life is equally their right and their freedom. And why should we have an opinion on that?
Okay. Are you about to go and do? Are you off, Amelia? Do you want to give us a final thought, or are you just back?
Oh no, I'm back.
Okay, so basically, what we're talking about right now is, I guess this question about the experience. Like, once we've got the experience, we've kind of been there, we've done it, and we've just kind of grown. The door is open, and then we go further, I suppose. Hortense, you've not said much. Have you got any views about drugs? Have you got a favourite drug?
Not really, actually. I try not. I'm like the person who's never gonna use drugs next to people that actually do drugs a lot. So I'm experiencing their experience of it.
Okay, so it's, in a way it goes back to this idea of the story, the narrative of the drug, rather than the drug experience itself, which is kind of a bit like what you're saying, that the story was enough for.
Well, you see, the thing that you want to figure out is the reason why you want to do it in the first place. What is it that draws you to the experience itself? What do you want to actually achieve? Now, if it's financial gains or something from drugs themselves, then obviously you just play into the world as it is. You don't really want to change the world. And do you want to change the world? Do you want to go somewhere? What is the purpose in the first place?
So can drugs actually be a way of changing the world?
Well, the drugs itself is changing your perception of the world. But it doesn't mean that you have to have the drugs. You're just trying to find a deeper experience of it, because you're trying to understand what your nature of your existence within this world is, really.
Okay.
And that's why.
All right. Final thought from Kieran?
I'm going to just say that the opposite of like these mind-expanding drugs everyone's talking about is opiates.
Yeah.
And I have to say that
contracting drugs.
Well, yeah, numbing drugs, making you feel just kind of comfortable.
Yeah.
And I once had the luck to smoke opium from Iran,
right,
where they make it very, very well. And then anyway, it came over in the diplomatic bag, apparently, and it was amazing, and it was the nicest drug I've ever taken. So if you ever get a chance to smoke some very good opium, have a go.
So it's but is it mind contracting rather than
mind contracting? Just makes you feel good.
Okay. Okay. So there is a place as well for mind contracting drugs, just as there are mind expanding drugs. Come and have a seat on the table of chat. We're talking about drugs here. Should drugs be made legal? Should it be made legal? We've got a new face at the table. What's your name?
Faye.
Faye, welcome. We've got Hortense, we've got Tarek, we've got Vaughan, we've got Chris, and we've got Amelia and Rob, and I'm Mikey. At the moment we're sort of talking about, there's a few things on the table. There's like drug experience. Is it about and there's both Chris and Vaughan were kind of saying that there's also a narrative about the drug experience, where you actually have an experience and it changes your whole perception of the world, and that can actually in turn change the world. So that's where we are right now. Come and have a seat. What's your name?
My name's Nick.
Nick. Very quickly, Hortense, Faye, Rob, Amelia, Chris, Vaughan, Tarek and Mikey. Amelia?
I was just going to say that also, like, I think we've already said this, but it's literally so dependent on the person, like every single drug anyway, so it kind of seems like ridiculous to say that one thing is going to be able to fix everyone.
Okay, so different drugs for different people.
Drugs are just tools, essentially. So if you have the right mindset and approach to it, it could be a useful tool. It's like a drill. If you put it into your temple, it's not going to be very good for you.
Right.
But if you have a game plan with something to do with consciousness expansion, it seems to work. But it seems to need to be framed in a way that you're looking for something. You know, if you take, say, I don't know, a heavy psychedelic in the wrong circumstances, you're not guaranteed a pleasant experience.
Right.
You know,
so it's like a bunch of tools.
Yeah,
you've got a big toolbox.
I like to think so.
Okay, so there's different tools for different drugs. We're having a frank discussion about drugs here tonight. Nick, have you got any views? Or you just come here, so it might be early days. Are you an advocate of drug taking, of changing your experience?
If you want to.
Yeah.
I think it's down to the
So
individual.
it's more about where you desire to go, where you want to actually.
Yeah, I mean, if people want to, as long as it's safe and they're okay, and why not?
Okay. Vaughan, you look like you're about to say something. No?
No.
No? Okay. I got that wrong. Come and have a seat on the table of chat. Yeah, go.
Okay.
So it just depends on the purpose of it, really. Like, for every person it's different because they're obviously placed in a different situation, and so some look for escape, some look for upliftment, some look for other things, profit from it. It just really depends on each person, I guess.
Yeah.
And to say that every person is exactly the same, that's their thing, is it's absurd, is it not?
I mean, in the future, would we have more of a kind of designer approach to drugs, where we all have a...
But I think you asked the wrong question before.
Yeah?
It's not about drug taking, it's about having an experience, right? I mean, historically, drugs weren't about taking the drug, it was about having some kind of spiritual experience or some connection with nature or the future or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I think we classify it the wrong way today.
Right,
Because it's
okay,
either
so it's
you're
about
taking drugs or is it about making money? It's not. At least historically it wasn't about that.
So instead of designing the drug, it's about designing the experience.
Yeah, exactly. And that the drug may facilitate it or something else may facilitate it.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be a drug.
Okay, so we should be talking about experience, not drugs. The drugs are kind of just a tool.
I think that was really interesting what you were describing there, because it wasn't just an experience though, it was part of ceremony. And what's fascinating is if you look at drug taking in all cultures across the world, most of it was part of ceremony and it was a fundamental part of society. And a lot of our drug taking now is very much unstructured, unconscious, individual. And we've lost some of that collective ceremonial aspect to it.
Do we need to structure it more, do you think?
I don't know if necessarily we need to. I just think it's an interesting thing to explore in the fact that we maybe don't do that as much as we could because we have lost as a society this idea of ceremony.
Right. Okay, so where do we want to go with this? We want to talk about structured drug taking, ceremony, combining faith?
I think we have a puritanical hangover and the idea of something, an experience that isn't based in toil, that isn't, because you've got a whole Christian paradigm in the West, which is, that your kind of spiritual practice is through suffering and through self-sacrifice and minimizing and reducing yourself, as opposed to the idea of, those ceremonies we're talking about, which is expansive and connecting with a broader universe. It's not about subduing your conscious or mammalian urges. It's about syncing them with a broader experience in the universe. So I think that the idea that we've made drugs into kind of just an end rather than a means, because we've delegitimized the journey. The idea that you can be a seeker and that you should experiment. It's all dealt with guilt and shame.
Right.
Because people don't die from taking magic mushrooms, do they? Yeah. It's a moral choice. It's this idea that if you have pleasure or you find something that is outside of, the very narrow reward system that the society allows you to have, that you're somehow degenerate. And I think that's really in our moral psyche.
Okay, so there's a moral element that we haven't. Come and get involved in this coming up. Yes, that's you. You're very welcome to imbibe on the drug of chat. And in a way, this is a slightly structured experience, or not that structured. So it's kind of like the balance between structure and discovery. But I mean, are we too shameful about drugs? Is the shame an issue?
No, it isn't. As you said, it was sort of part of a ritual. Some people take it to bond together as a community, and also it really depends on the event that is going on. If there's costumes or makeup and atmosphere, and I guess obviously there's nothing shameful about it, as you said as well. But
hang on a sec, Nick. Give me a final thought before you go. Sorry, Hortense.
They're closeted away, they're hidden away. I think that's the problem. So they need to come out in the open so that people can have an open dialogue about it. If you keep things taboo, it's not going to. I don't think it helps anyone in society to really look at what's going on with drugs.
Okay, so a bit more of a conversation, a bit more pride and a less shame.
I think so, but when we say drugs, what are we talking about? I've had loads of coffee today. For me, that's a drug. Alcohol is a drug. Drugs have a broad spectrum, right? And also, I think the ones that we've stigmatized or called illegal, there's a history there and a reason for that. It's a complex issue, I suppose, would be my.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll leave you to go and choose the drug of your choice. Okay, so where do we want to talk about this idea of ceremony, of a structured experience?
One more point then, pulling on the string that Chris started and Faye did as well, which is part of that ceremony, or what that ceremony was around community. There was much more of a community when people took drugs. People were much more reliant on each other. Today, it's much more individual, right? Yeah. Oftentimes people take drugs to, I mean, I'm overgeneralizing, but maybe to separate themselves, not to be together.
So the reason why we don't have that sense of
and that's not always the
ceremony-
case, but there is more of that today than there would have been in the past.
Yeah. So we're a bit too individualist now. So our drug taking also is individualist.
Yeah, I mean, we are. We're kind of fracturing as a society, aren't we? Like with social media and the way we behave, it's like more smaller and smaller subgroups.
Yeah. Okay, so that's why we can't do this kind of ceremony-based rituals.
Just to reply to that, do you think that's a new phenomenon? You say we're fracturing as a society as if this is a very recent problem, but I would say that that's been happening for over 100 years or more.
Yeah.
Well, you're right. Over 100 years, yes, but I think it's more pronounced now than it has been in the past because
so
it's
just
easier
getting worse and
because of
worse.
technology. It's easier for it to happen than it was in the past.
I mean, do people agree with that? Is our society fractured? Can we do anything to connect more? Do we even want to do that? Do we like being fractured?
I think it will happen.
Yeah, you think it will happen?
Yeah, I think people are realising already. Sorry, Rob's got something to say.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I don't compare to...
Well, you know what I like on Talkaoke is for short points like that. I think it will happen. Well, it doesn't have to be more than a sentence. Rob?
Well, I think that is something where ceremony and ritual play a part, like so in forming a cohesive community. And that is something that we lost with the kind of decline of religion and having a secular society. We've kind of thrown out all this stuff which is actually quite useful and can be quite beautiful. You know, ceremonies can be amazing, rituals can be good.
So what's the answer to that in your view?
Just have more ceremonies and rituals, but you don't have to go back to having an authoritarian church.
Okay, so you can have a non-religious ritual. A new ritual.
Anything can be a ritual, you know, if you have the mindset that it is. Like brushing your teeth could be a ritual if you want it to be.
But maybe if we, instead of brushing our teeth by ourselves, we did it in a communal mass toothbrushing. That would work, wouldn't it? The dentist would be happy. Communal rituals, Faye, have you got any views on this?
I think that it's interesting we talked about taboo, and I think a lot of things that we find taboo are things to do with being, I don't know, things we were a lot easier with in the past, because you've got the fragmentation of people, which is a lot to do with the capitalistic kind of the setup where people are individualists and they want what they want to have. And also there's a taboo about talking about the spiritual, feelings, emotion, having connection like that, shaking on the ground, you know, whatever it is that's in a ritual, most people would be absolutely terrified of letting go in that way. So I think if you want to, I mean, that's what it's for.
Yeah.
It's a purging. It helps people, you know, understand those things.
Let go.
But in this society, it's not. It's quite gauche to express that kind of sentiment. You know?
So in a way, just even being connected and spiritual in that sense of connection is taboo in itself in our worlds. Do we agree with that?
I don't think it is taboo. I think it just depends on which community people choose to be in and how to define that community.
Right, so there are communities out there where that's a bit more accepted, that this kind of togetherness.
Yeah, like since actually ages, like there is like substances that are transferred to communities, and but I think it's right that in an individualistic capitalistic era, which would be like big cities, you know, socialist era, then it wouldn't wouldn't work as much, because then people don't recognize as community.
Okay, so we can find these spaces, we can find these places, these communities. We just choose to live in the city. So in a way, it's us that's being individualistic by choosing to live here in London, the heart of darkness. Is that true, Chris?
I mean, I think you can find community anywhere. And certainly within smaller places, it's easier to feel surrounded by it.
Sorry, Chris. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Finish your point. I'm going to get a final thought for everyone, and I feel like we're going to wrap this up because everyone's getting too distracted. Because, and rightly so, because there's going to be a great load of performances happening. So it's understandable. Let's get your thought, and let's get final thoughts from everyone else, including Alexandra. I want a final thought from you. I'm going to wrap this up, as usual. So, Chris.
Final thoughts. I mean, you were talking about community and how we maybe struggle to find it in the city, and something that I think around a lot at the moment is this idea of isolation being the disease of our generation, and seeing communities flourish within the city, and I think that there's a sort of a transformation happening.
Yeah.
Amelia was referring to it. We're becoming a lot more aware of this, I believe.
Yeah.
And people are starting to introduce these things back into society.
So awareness is maybe the first step in this kind of this progress towards kind of getting back together again.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get some final thoughts on this side, Rob.
Take drugs and do rituals.
Okay. All right. Final thought, Faye?
Just that personal autonomy is really important and worth fighting for, and the government shouldn't encroach upon your consciousness expansion. That's just weird. If you can fight in a war and get married, it's just weird.
Okay, so the government should be actually encouraging people to expand.
No, the government just should leave themselves out of it. It should be personal choice.
Okay,
with safe legislation, like to protect the vulnerable. But ultimately, if you can go to a war and get your head blown off, you should be able to take a magic mushroom.
But I mean, what about this? What about a government that actually encourages you to expand your mind? Like,
I don't think it's their place to force any kind of ideology upon the people. I think it should remain as neutral as possible, other than in obvious moral problems. Yeah.
Okay. Alexandra, final thought?
I don't know.
Have a seat. Have a seat. Oh, okay,
I have to, because we do performance soon, so we have to.
Tell us what the performance is.
Well, it's Obsolete by October Collective, featuring Morgan Barber and Tash Hatchkins somewhere here. So I need to tell them when we're gonna do performance. So 8:15. Nobody listens to me, but that's when the performance is gonna kick off. And afterwards, Stain's Daughter.
Turn it up a little bit. Go on then. Try it again. Try it again.
I don't have voice really.
Okay. So
8:15 performance Obsolete by October Collective. 8:15 performance. See you soon.
Okay. Are you gonna have a final thought apart from that? Is that it?
I don't know if I. Well. Definitely communities, definitely drugs, and definitely freedom to find our own way how to express ourselves and fight our own truth.
Okay, good one. All tense.
Hello!
Is that your final thought? It's like
Don't do drugs.
Don't do drugs.
Be aware of mental health to take drugs. That's my conservative opinion out of it.
Okay, so that's a whole can of worms, like mental health and drugs.
It's what people wouldn't say, but it's actually really important to be aware of mental health and development of the plastic brain while for taking drugs. That's my opinion.
Okay, well, funny you should say that, because on the 26th of February in Grove Lane in Camberwell, we are doing a Talkaoke around mental health between 11 and 2 at the Ortus Cafe. So come down to that if no one's listening. Maybe these people are listening online. Okay, thanks very much.